We want to thank Jake for joining us for that riveting 76ers talk. And let's jump into our rankings of the top 30 shooting guards for the 2018-2019 season. The point guard rankings were taken fairly well.
Better than years past, yes.
Yeah, not terribly. Alonzo Ball was the biggest gripe that people had, which is fairly reasonable just because he is a sophomore and it is Alonzo Ball who's very polarizing because of his father.
What would you rather have? Would you rather have what we had this year or he be in the top 10 like he was last year for me?
Not our fault.
What would you rather have?
Your fault.
I mean, this year I ranked him very I feel like I ranked him very fairly this year compared to his rookie year.
Yeah, you were smoking some Lonzo crap.
Oh, I was. But that's how we do on rookies.
You were looking at the shoes and everything, man. But let's jump into the rankings now. They just cost
too damn much, man.
They're not worth it.
No.
They're ugly.
I would have had them if they were, cheaper.
No, ugly.
If they were about the same price as my Steph's, I would have bought them.
Real quick, those probably cost like $25 to make, and they're selling for $500.
Probably.
Anyways, let's jump into our rankings. That's why you're here. 30 through 21, and then we'll break that into 20 through 11, and then 10 through 1. If you're new here, this is going to be either a full podcast. We're going to talk them in bunches. If you're listening to the full podcast on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, just roll with us. But let's start off at 30. We have Tony Snell of the Milwaukee Bucks, then J.R. Smith of the Cleveland Cavaliers, then Courtney Lee of the New York Knicks at 28. Then at 27, we have Reggie Bullock of the Detroit Pistons. Then at 26, we have Dillon Brooks of the Memphis Grizzlies. And at 25, we have Nick Batum of the Charlotte Hornets. And at 24, we have Danny Green now of the Toronto Raptors. Then at 24, we had Danny Green. 23, we have Buddy Hield of the Sacramento Kings. Then at 22, we have Andre Roberson of the Oklahoma City Thunder, also dating my girl, Rachel Demita of NBA 2K TV. Yeah, Robertson's doing well for himself. And then at 21, we have Alan Crabb of the Brooklyn Nets. And also, if anyone feels so kindly, go back to the point guard rankings and then also throughout this video and see how many numbers I just totally botch.
On our spreadsheet, I noticed that you didn't do it this time. I'm like, I'm going to help him out and put the numbers next to it.
Yeah, I will, because now where I put the numbers last time, I put the ratings drop.
Yes.
Which we'll get to a little bit later. Super interesting, at least in this one. Nick Batum fell 12 spots. Buddy Hield fell 11 spots. Roberson rose 4 spots, and Courtney Lee fell 5, and J.R. Smith fell 4.
J.R., he doesn't know what time it is in the game. He doesn't know the score of the game. Like, dude really needs to put a shirt on and know what's going on in the basketball game.
If Tony Snell wasn't just a 3-and-D player and at the very just doing the very least of a starting lineup, JR would be dead last.
Yes.
But JR is at least he's touching the ball more. Yeah. That is literally the only criteria of why J.R. Smith is over Tony Snell. Tony Snell might even be more what's it called? More important to the Bucks team than JR.
Maybe. They both though might get the Mario Chalmers treatment from SNL. Just lock them in a closet because they don't touch the basketball.
But none of them are playing with LeBron, so it doesn't matter. But we do.
JR used to.
Yeah, we do have some new additions to this list. Alan Crabb was not on our list last year. I think we had him as a small forward. I think that's why. So he is a first addition to the shooting guard list. We have Dillon Brooks. He was a rookie last year, now joining the starting lineup now. We have Reggie Bullock now joining the starting lineup of the Detroit Pistons. And then Tony Snell also joining our rankings. Out of these players, Crabb, Brooks, Bullock, and Snell. Which one excites you the most?
Out of the new ones, I think I want to go with either Alan Crabb or Dillon Brooks. And the reason why is Dillon Brooks excites me only because the Grizzlies excite me for some reason, to where I'm interested to see, are they a playoff team to me? They could be. They're not in my playoffs, but like, I'm interested to see, are they going to compete? A healthy Grizzly team, are they going to compete in the West this year? And just Alan Crabb, because I want to see what more we can see from him. That's basically what I'm trying to say. With the Nets, 2 lower teams that could probably be in the lottery next year. The Nets will be for sure. The Grizzlies, like I said, is iffy. So those are the 2 that I'll be like, yeah, you know what? Keep your eye on those to see what they do this season and what their teams do, really.
Yeah, I absolutely love Dillon Brooks. We just got mentions from Mike
Duck.
Yeah, we got mentions though from Mike 2K 2K97 on Twitter, and then also our boy Henny Uncle Shay, the Henny God, asking if we're bringing back fantasy. And one of the guys we picked up last year was Dillon Brooks, and Dillon Brooks was massive important to this Memphis team last year. He was extremely efficient.
I thought you were going to say he was massively important to our fantasy team last year.
Well, he was. I mean, he came in. He was a roto monster. He was grabbing boards. He was stealing balls left and right. He was blocking shots. He was scoring points. Very good showing from him last year. It's going to be interesting to see how he adjusts to this lineup because now you're going to have Conley in a more advanced role. Marc Gasol will be playing more. Obviously, they made additions like Kyle Anderson to this team. So it's going to be interesting to see how Brooks adjusts to that. But Brooks can totally be a guy that is fit for the modern day in the NBA. Big size, long wingspan. He's very agile, and he's a guy that can shoot from the outside. So he's a guy that I'm extremely interested in to see how he fits into that team because this might be a team that is a playoff team, like you're mentioning. And Dillon Brooks is a guy you referenced his time at Oregon. He's a guy that has gone deep in the tourney. Was on a Final Four team. He's a guy that was a leader on that Oregon team as well. And I think obviously having Conley and Gasol are massively important. Kyle Anderson has playoff experience. Just having more guys that are experienced in that starting lineup in big pressure situations and guys that can be leaders is huge for any team. Dillon Brooks played 82 games last year, is used to the system in Memphis. I'm extremely excited to see what can happen. Now, is this a guy that might just take a backseat role and not really progress?
He could,
but we're going to rank him expecting that he will because that was his rookie year last year, and he's going to be playing with better players, which means he's going to get more open looks, and he's going to have to take on a lesser role, which means he might be playing against worse players and might be able to ball out a little bit more.
And I mean, the thing too that you also have to look at is, I mean, they bring in Jaren Jackson Jr., which what will he be like at the end of the year? Meaning, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't start. I'm not saying he shouldn't, so Grizzly fans don't jump on me. But what are we going to see from him throughout the season? Marc Gasol is obviously a 1-2 on this team. Mike Conley is obviously what I would say is the 1. And then are we ever going to see, what are we going to see from Chandler Parsons this year as well? And mainly for me, the main thing is if this Grizzly team is healthy, like you said, he might take a backseat role because the rest of the guys are healthy and can be the spotlight for Memphis.
Yeah, I think especially he's didn't have a massive high usage, so it's going to be interesting again playing off guys like Jaren Jackson, Marc Gasol, and Mike Conley, how he's going to adjust there. Speaking of adjustments, though, Danny Green's going to be a guy we got to look at going to Toronto. What do you expect from a guy that has been in the league for a while? I think he's around 31 years old, maybe even older than that. But what do you expect from a guy like Danny Green? He was injured last year, now coming over to Toronto, fitting into that system.
Well, and I mean, to me, the big thing with Danny Green was, I wonder if him and CJ are gonna how much they're gonna split time at the 2, because I don't think Danny Green is the guy where it's man, he's our starting 2 and he's the main guy where it's I could see nights where it's all right, CJ is starting at 2 for us. So I mean, with me, I feel like there's going to be a lot of switching. Also, what do we see from a boy that you liked in college quite a bit? I believe we saw him live. He might have been injured at the time. No, he didn't play. Virginia wasn't at that cluster. But Malachi Richardson, is he going to be anything for this team at the 2? So for me, I mean, Danny Green isn't a guy that's going to light your shoes on fire. But hey, if he can shoot from 3 and help out the Raptors, it's a plus for them. I just don't think in this grouping, next year, if he's a starting 2, it's not going to be man, he's a top 15 shooting guard now.
But I think with Danny Green, I mean, consistently he's been one of the best defenders at that position. And last year, obviously, he took a dip because of that injury. Yeah. If he comes back to that form and is back to a guy that is seen as a near elite defender in the NBA, adding that to this team that is becoming more of a 3-and-D team where they have so many players that can shoot from the outside. They increase their three-point total. You're adding Kawhi, who's a better three-point shooter than DeMar DeRozan is, also a better defender. You're adding Danny Green, who is a good three-point shooter in his own right and a good defender. Having that ability to switch those players out. You have OG Anunoby as well on the team. You have Fred VanVleet coming off the bench. You mentioned Malachi. I don't think he's going to be too big of an instrument, but again, he's still fairly young. But yeah, I look at Danny Green, and he might be a guy that we might look at and be like, we kind of had him way too low last year because, again, he is getting older and he was dealing with his injuries. But if he's a guy that, again, is just put into the right spot, he might really be able to shine.
Well, and I mean, I just look at, because right now, from when we've been keeping track of these positional rankings, he's a guy that's floated around this segment of the podcast, where 2016, he was our 28th best shooting guard, starting shooting guard. Then last year, he rose all the way up to 22. and then this year he kind of sits at 24. So, I mean, that to me is Danny Green, where he is going to float around this segment. There might be years like, oh, if he was injured the year before, all right, he's closer to 27 through 29. All right, or I'll say 26 through 28. If it's like a year where it's like last year, it was a pretty good year. All right, he's closer to 22 to 24, but he's not going to say, boom, shoot him into the top 20.
Well, and he's a guy, too, that has also, his numbers have seen a decrease. I mean, you look at 2011 to 2014, he consistently shot around 42% from three and was absolutely elite from the outside. And then after 2014, 2015, went down to 33, then went up to 37, then went back down to 36. If he's a guy that can possibly get up back to that 40% plateau,
especially in this NBA,
I think that's going to be something that might push him up to maybe he gets in. Maybe next year he's into the second level clubhouse.
Do you think that? I'll throw this out. Do you think he has a better year this year outside of the Spurs system, outside of that Spurs mentality, and now being in a different system in Toronto?
I don't think it's the systems are too drastic. I think the system actually fits him better. The biggest thing that I will wonder is at least how much can Kyle Lowry work as a facilitator, and also
now
how
that
much
he doesn't
will
have DeMar to be the number one, and Kawhi Leonard's not the assist king.
But I mean, Kawhi did put up decent assist numbers, and before he got injured last year, his assists have increased, and he's seen more of the ability to take the ball and then not only drive and attack the basket, pull up from mid-range, shoot from the outside. He's also shown the ability to facilitate the basketball. But a big thing about DeRozan last year, I think he had averaged like 5 assists last year, and he was consistently great at trying to do his mid-range game and then also kicking out. So if the ball movement stays the same and there isn't that much of a dip where you taking out DeMar, adding in Kawhi and Danny Green into this Toronto Raptors this system, I think it actually might help Danny Green a little bit more because he's going to get more open looks, especially having Kawhi
he's just got to be a spot-up shooter at that point.
Exactly, and he's proven before that he can be near that 40% level. If he can be up there and still be great defensively, especially in that system where you do have Kyle Lowry, who's a good defender. You have Kawhi, who's obviously a great defender. Ibaka's in there. Ibaka might be coming off the bench, though, from what I'm hearing. Anunoby's a great defender as well. Being in that system really might be beneficial to Danny Green. But let's move into guys that had some struggles last year, whether it be injury or just coming off. Those guys being Roberson. Roberson did end up rising 4 spots, but we obviously knew his injury and the effect that had on OKC. They were much worse without Roberson. They kind of got their footing near the end of the season. Then you see Buddy Hield with an 11 ranking drop-off, and then Nick Batum with a 12 ranking drop-off. What do you, or at least what out of these players, who are you expecting the most from this year? Roberson, Buddy Hield, or Nick Batum?
I think it's Andre Robertson, and I'll be completely honest. Out of us three, I had Robertson the least. I had him at 27th on my rankings. But the thing that you'll see consistently throughout this podcast with me is basically, if you were injured last year, I am now going off of the mindset this year of I'm going to put you a little lower because of that injury. Prove to me that you should be higher. And I mean, he's a guy that whenever we bring up the Thunder, it's like, oh, well, this negative thing happened. The usual counter argument is, oh, well, Robertson got injured and he wasn't there. It's like, all right, I guess he's a huge argument. And to me, the big thing is what he brings to this Thunder team defensively alone. Because, I mean, you got 2 guys where Russ and PG are not elite defenders. He's got to be, I'm not going to say elite.
PG is very close.
Yeah, I'm not saying like they're trash, good. But I'm not like, they're not Kawhi Leonard levels of defense.
But with that, I mean, I think with Kawhi Leonard levels, it's Draymond, Anthony Davis, Rudy Gobert, and
the point
Kawhi.
I was going to make is
that next tier is St. Paul George level. The
point I was going to make is he's got to be what I would maybe like defensively, what I see Klay Thompson to the Warriors, where it's like, hey, Russ might not be the best defensively, and we focus more on his offensive game. Roberson's got to be out there to be a defensive guy for
Roberson is more of the Draymond Green of that team, and then Paul George would be the Klay Thompson of that.
Either or.
Because, again, I mean,
mainly I'm looking at his defensive ability more so than his offense.
Yeah, that's why he's this high.
Yeah.
I mean, he's horrible offensively. Can't shoot a free throw, can't shoot from the outside, but he's starting for a reason, and that is because of his elite defense. But yeah, Roberson is ridiculously great defensively. He has the ability to go up against your number one, shut you down, and I think it's actually going to be at least seen a little bit more his contribution. Not having Melo out there, because this team is going to flow better without Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah.
Having Carmelo Anthony off the back of this Thunder team is huge for this team. I wasn't able to jump on this podcast, that podcast in that segment. I think having Dennis Schroder
the
coming
one
off
where
the
we
bench,
had Z on and we talked about Melo.
Having Dennis Schroder come off the bench, backing up Russell Wilson, I think it's going to have a very similar aspect to Reggie Jackson and Russell Westbrook. However, Dennis Schroder brings, I think, possibly a little bit more maturity. It's obviously going to have to see what he's tailored to. The biggest thing that he wanted was to be on a competitive team. He is now on that competitive team.
Yeah.
He got what he wanted. Maybe his attitude will change up and he'll mature a little bit more, especially knowing the player he's behind in Russell Westbrook. And I think he's a guy that can come in, give you 15 off the bench, or maybe 13, and it's sufficient 13 off the bench. And then having him next to Roberson to make up for Schroeder's defensive deficiencies will make that second team better. So I think Roberson is a guy that, obviously it's going to be interesting to see how he critical how he comes back from this injury that he suffered. But if he's able to come back and he's able to come back healthy, this is going to be a massive addition to this Thunder team. I know he's technically wasn't added, but him coming back,
it's an addition.
Yeah,
there's subtraction.
Being back to this team, it's going to be something that I think is going to be very noticeable to NBA fans when watching the games.
And I almost think about it because, using the range that you and Dave had between 18 and 21 as the range where you guys had them, I would feel like, because the guy that I have right around there is a guy we'll talk about in the next segment in KCP for the Lakers. I feel like if Roberson shot a little bit better, he would be in that range for me, where it was like, okay, even if he was healthy, might be around 21, 23 area for me. That's where I would have him. But if he could shoot and score, I'm not talking about a ton of points, maybe 10 points per game instead of 5, he'd be a little bit higher.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, I had him the highest at 18. And the reason why I did that is because he has an elite skill.
Yeah.
Now, the guys that I have below are Josh Richardson, KCP, Kent Bazemore, Alan Crabb, Danny Green, Nick Batum, Dillon Brooks, Buddy Hield, et cetera, et cetera. The reason why I had those guys below a guy like Roberson is because I don't think they have an elite skill. Now, Josh Richardson, I think, is a guy that might be needs more of a chance to hunt. He needs more of a chance to develop that. He's a guy that he needs to improve his three-point shooting a little bit more, become more consistent. But he's shown some ability on the defensive end as well. I think Roberson is kind of going to be that benchmark of if you have more than an elite skill, you have a well-balanced a game, and you're very consistent in that game. Then once you jump over Roberson, that's when you kind of make it. Where Roberson is fantastic defensively, and if we did this by defensive rankings for shooting guards, he's top 3 no matter what. And maybe some people will put Oladipo above Roberson, and maybe some people will put Drew Holiday over Roberson, but he's not under anybody else. And I'd probably make the argument he's number 1 at least when it comes to defense on the shooting guard ratings. When it comes to strictly on
so you're
defensive
saying he's
level,
a better defender than Clay?
Yes.
Okay.
Clay's probably
just
4 on
out
that.
there.
Yeah, it's Vic and Drew that I can probably think the only arguments can be made for defending strictly when it comes to shooting guards. And Roberson is that guy that, again, he has that elite offense, that elite defense, where the offense, he'd probably be 30. And it's probably not even close because Tony Snell brings a really efficient shooting game.
And I
from the
mean,
outside.
that's why I bring up, I use you can call it a comparison if you want, for KCP, because when I think of the Lakers, especially beginning of last year, where they brought him in basically because of his defense, where that's where I kind of see Roberson, where, like you said, he has an elite skill defensively. The only thing that brings him first off down in my mind, where I would have him closer to the 21 that Dave had him, was his offense. But really, number 2 is, how is he going to bounce back from this injury, and what is that going to mean for the Thunder if, let's say, he's not who we expect him to be? Because remember, I mean, I know this is a different situation because it wasn't an injury, but remember how much we hyped up the Thunder after Melo got to this team, because, they had all 3. Now, we've seen Robertson with this team, but we haven't seen him bounce back from the injury yet.
That's fair, but I don't know what that really does with Melo. I mean,
I'm just saying, let's not overhype anything, is what I'm saying. That's why with me, I necessarily put him lower where some people may be like, Ricky, that's way too low.
I'm not trying to overhype him. We've seen this guy for the past 5 years come out and be elite defensively.
Like overhype, I mean as a team in general. Like, because I know that some people are going to say, well, oh, you know what? With Roberson, this is a team this far, and put any like Western Conference second round where it's like, you know what? Or like, hey, this team's a top 3 team in the West with a healthy Roberson. And I'm sitting there going, let's pump the brakes and see how he plays in the regular season after coming off this injury.
I mean, he's a guy that Roberson, I mean, you look at what his, the advanced stats, you look at his defensive box plus minus, it's 2.8, which is absolutely stupid. Yeah. You look at his box plus minus in general, it's a 1.5. And his, offensive deficiencies are totally negated by his defensive abilities, or even helped by his defensive abilities. People might look at his win shares going from 3.1 to 1.3, but also he didn't finish out a season, and he had a 1.3 defensive win share in 39 games. I mean, not a lot of people can go out and do that. So Roberson's a guy that I just find elite on that one side, and having that ability, I think, is very important, especially when you have 2 elite scorers already, or 2 near elite scorers. One clearly Russell Westbrook, and then the other one being Paul George.
Let me ask you this, and I know that you put him necessarily at 18 and use that benchmark like you talked about.
Yeah.
Mainly because like I look at all the other guys below him, and it's like, okay, maybe if there were other shooting guards that were different, maybe that benchmark then gets lowered. I'll ask you this. Do you think a guy like Roberson, who it's like he is an elite defender, and that's really all you look at, does he necessarily deserve then in like a rankings like this to be a top 20 player on a top 30 ranking like this? Or,
well, yeah, because like I said, defensively, he's top 3. Offensively, he's dead last.
Exactly.
You take those averages out. He averages out to 15.
Okay.
Like I think he meets in the middle because again, he is so elite defensively. He is still he's the only reason he's still in the NBA is because of his defensive abilities. And not only is he in the NBA, he's starting on a playoff team. Like,
true.
I mean, this is a guy that is extremely valuable to his team, and he's a guy that can go in, shut a team down, but also he's great at switching. He's great in a team defense. He does everything you need in a defender, and he does it at a next level. And he's a guy that you really can't replace. Now, maybe later on in his career, he might not be a guy in the be a guy that's still important in the NBA because he's going to possibly suffer more injuries. He's going to lose a little bit of that step athletically. That is going to hurt his NBA career, and adding a 3-point shot or adding the ability to shoot from the outside will lengthen his career. But again, right now, I still see him, if he's able to bounce back from that injury, as a guy that should be near the middle of the pack.
And I mean, that kind of popped into my head because I'm like, you know what? If he's got like that one ability, and this is not just Roberson, this is just any player in general, if they've got that, like, here's one thing they're really good at and they're really bad at everything else, kind of just the philosophy question of, do they deserve to be in our third segment and be just relegated to the first?
This then, with Roberson, he is consistent at being elite on defense. Where I look at Josh Richardson, and he's a very good young player, but I haven't seen that consistency out of him. KCP, he's a guy that is consistent, but he's not at an elite level consistency. I mean, he's a consistent starter, but would there be other options at the 2 guard for KCP that I'd rather have? Yes, because I think KCP is at his top level. Yeah. And again, he's a guy that does a lot of things great. He can shoot from the outside. He's a good defender. But I don't think he's a guy that, again, is elite at anything. Bazemore is a guy that, again, he needs to get more consistent. Crabbe's a guy that needs to get more consistent. Danny Green's older. Nick Batum's older. Dillon Brooks really hasn't shown that consistency.
It would be different if like Roberson was like, oh, he's a pretty good defender. If he wasn't elite and it was like, he's a great instead of elite defender.
If he was a pretty good defender and not elite, he'd be probably dead last. Okay. I mean, he has an elite skill, and the only reason why I have guys like Fournier, Wiggins, I mean, this is kind of I mean, people can kind of tell, Luka and Levine above him.
It's because they have more of an offensive game.
Well, no, they have potential. Yeah. That's the thing is, I mean, those guys are, Levine's come in and scored 20 points per game in a season. He has potential to pop out. He's only 23 years old. You look at Luka, he's a guy that is 19 years old. He's going to come in and he has anything to work with. We don't know what we're going to see from him.
They also do have better offensive games, especially like the two you just listed. But have better offensive games.
But you could say that about a stick.
Yeah.
You could say that about a broomstick. You could say a broomstick has a better offense. I have a better.
Could you say I have a better offensive game?
No, you saw me shooting though.
Yeah,
you saw me shooting, and I was just sinking shots.
Yeah, you're pretty good.
So like, I mean, might have a better shot than Andre Roberson. I'm not better offensively. If we go 1-on-1, Roberson's destroying me. I'm not saying that, but if we're taking jumpers from the left elbow, I'm out shooting Andre Roberson.
What we'll have to do is we were playing at the church parking lot. We got to go and play at
a church that none of us is going to, by the way.
We got to play at the local college and see what it is on those college hoops and not that not even rec league, not even that just that parking lot kind of. Even the rim was a little loose. I was mad at the bounce on that rim. So we got to take a screwdriver or a wrench and kind of tighten that thing up.
You know, good shooters need to blame it on a bouncy rim. He could just swish them like I was. It was just hitting back of the iron. Ding, ding,
or just
ding,
be like
ding,
Dave and
ding,
shoot like
ding,
Joakim Noah.
Ding. That would Dave. All right, that's one. Dave's not here to defend himself, so I'll shit on him. He was shooting like I don't know what he was doing. He was like headed down. It was kind of
Alonzo Ball.
It was Lonzo-esque, but he wasn't going like up and then actually like a shooting motion.
It was like a slingshot.
He was like doing that. I was like, what the fuck? I was like Drew Hanlon for a second, trying to teach him to shoot, and then Ricky does this thing, and we're done with the
Is there anyone else you want to talk about in here?
Nah, fuck it. Like Courtney Lee. I mean,
no.
I like Courtney Lee. He's a starting. He's a very consistent. He's a good guy, but he's nothing spectacular. Reggie Bullock's a guy that's interesting to me. Very efficient offensively. I think he needs to be a little bit more consistent. Show that for another year. Then I'll definitely be willing to move Bullock up. And then we talked about pretty much everybody else besides Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield's a guy that we expected so much from him in that next year, and that's kind of our fault. We set the expectations super high for Buddy Hield. He didn't meet those. He wasn't consistently starting.
What about Batum? Batum was a lot higher last year than he was this year.
We talked about him because I threw out the guys who dropped. I threw out Buddy Hield.
No, but I mean,
Batum,
like,
and I threw out
in depth. We didn't look at him. I didn't know how much in depth you want to look at.
He's
Batum.
a guy that is very similar to Danny Green. He's a guy that. He's going to fit in the system for a while.
He's been in a lot of trade rumors because of his contract.
Yeah, he was dealing with injuries. He's a guy that is a starter, but he's nothing. Again, he's not at the same level he used to be.
Yeah.
Anyways, going back to Ricky's shot, and this is going to be like maybe a minute. I was teaching Dave, and I realized what Ricky was doing. Ricky would grab the ball and then put it down and then put it up.
Yeah, it's kind of like a cock motion.
Yeah, it's wrong.
Like I know it's not right.
Extremely wrong.
But it's like I catch it and like I push it down to like
he goes to his groin and then he goes up to his chin. And it's like, no, dude, like just literally even that's wrong.
I know it's wrong. I'm not saying it's right.
But even then, I was just like, all right, Ricky, move it up to your chest and then finish near the top of your head. It was like, okay, and then he grabbed it and he just put it up right away. I'm like, no, you're not doing the right thing. Probably no one finds this funny, by the way.
It basically reaffirms what they have been saying, that I cannot play basketball, which you are right. No, I cannot play basketball.
If anyone could,
I was more like if there was any sport, I was a volleyball player at best. That's what I was.
I think. You can be a spot-up shooter, but you're probably getting picked last for me. But you're one of those guys that, again, like if you're getting picked last, people are still going to be surprised by you.
I've always been even sneaky where it's like I didn't expect Widmer to be that good.
Your shot's janky, but it goes in. It goes in like 30% of the time. So I mean, like, hey, if I'm passing the ball very rarely and you got your energy stored up, like you're a very hot starter and a very cold finisher. And I'll give Dave credit if he works on that shot. If he goes up to that church parking lot, works on a shot. Dave's got some athleticism to him, and he's got some some length to him.
I got some good post moves.
Yeah, though. Dave could be our Roberson.
Yeah,
Dave can't shoot, but he can play some pretty good.
Hey man, I got some good post moves.
Anyways, let us know what you think about our 21.
I'm just not tall. That's the problem.
Yeah, no, I'm taller than you. So you're going up against two guys that are taller than you, and you're just gonna stuff you anytime. But anyways, let us know about our rankings 30 through 21, and anything about our jumpers.